Elvis Aaron Presley, an iconic name in the world of music, known as the King. Elvis shot to fame with his new style of music and moves, starting his music career in 1954, mixing rock with gospel and some R&B and some added country style, and a unique career was born. Signing with Sun Records in 1954, Elvis shot to fame very quickly. By 1956, he was an international sensation with a sound and style that uniquely combined his diverse musical influences and blurred and challenged the social and racial barriers of this time. He ushered in a whole new era of American music and popular culture. Graceland has its own unique style, and we start in the 1950s street scene, and each shop is another part of his career and life, carefully choreographed to tell his story. You can't film very much in Graceland, which is a shame, as I think it would have brought this vlog more to life. But where we could, I have. So wind back the clock and join us back in the 1950s. The first exhibition is of the film set from the 2022 film starring Austin Butler, which recounted his life. Not only did Elvis boast a very successful music career, but that of an actor too. By the time the Beatles had taken centre stage, Colonel Parker had him deeply immersed in Hollywood, and he hadn't had a chart hit for a number of years. Not happy with the mundane songs that he was singing for the films, he reinvented himself. Elvis's musical influences were pop and country music of the time, the gospel music he heard in church, and the all-night gospel sings he frequently attended, and the black R&B he absorbed on historic Beale Street as a Memphis teenager. Elvis has sold over 1 billion records worldwide. Elvis had over 150 different albums and singles certified gold, platinum and multi-platinum. Elvis still holds the record for the most top 40 hits at 114 in total. and Elvis starred in 31 feature films and 2 concert documentaries. So I'm at Graceland at the minute, and we've seen all of his motorbikes, his memorabilia and everything else. Just about to go and see the planes, because I think that's going to be amazing. And then the house, and finally the grave. So come on, let's go. Up to now, the planes have been 2 of the most visited items at the Elvis Presley mansion in Memphis. The last time the Lisa Marie flew was in 1977 on a trip from Los Angeles to the funeral of Elvis Presley, with his ex-wife Priscilla Presley and former Beatles star George Harrison on board. The planes were sold after Presley's death, and they were eventually purchased by a company called OKC Partnership. OKC Partnership and Graceland agreed to park the planes at Graceland in the mid-1980s, and the tours of their opulent interiors became popular with visitors. Although there are only 2 planes shown at Graceland, Elvis's fleet contained 3 jets, 2 Lockheed Jetstars and a Convair 880. Each of these private planes was customised to Elvis's liking, since the King liked riding in style no matter where he went. At the age of 22 years old, and having just finished his first movie, Love Me Tender, Elvis purchased Graceland for $102,500, sitting on a 13.8-acre estate. Elvis lived there from 1957 until his death in 1977, and prior to that it belonged to the Memphis socialite Ruth Brown Moore. It was built in 1939 and was designed by a local architectural firm. The classical revival style mansion was based on a scaled down version of the grandiose southern plantation and featured Corinthian columns inspired by the Tower of Winds in Athens. Today, Graceland is open to the public and remains just as it was when Elvis and his family lived there, frozen in time. The museums shown earlier are on land across the road, which were purchased after his death and were for displaying his vast collection of memorabilia. This is the Jungle Room, and Elvis called this the Den. The name Jungle Room was coined when Graceland opened to the public in 1982. The Jungle Room also became the King's final recording studio, where he recorded much of his last 2 albums. This is the racquetball court, where early that August morning, just hours before he died, Elvis Presley played his last game of racquetball. Racked with insomnia once again, he summoned his friends for a game. Sadly, fame and keeping up with the pressures that the promise of fame brought, along with the gruelling workload his manager Colonel Parker placed upon him, he turned to medications to keep up, and sadly this would also be his downfall. On August the 16th, 1977, sadly Elvis passed away at his home in Graceland in Memphis at the age of 42. At the time, the cause of death was noted as heart failure due to arrhythmias. However, investigations that have taken place since have found evidence tampered with and missing, and slowly some of the team members who performed his autopsy have said that there is nothing found to concur that the heart was the causal factor and that he died of polypharmacy.
Good evening. Elvis Presley died today. He was 42. Apparently it was a heart attack. He was found at his home in Memphis, not breathing. His road manager tried to revive him. He failed.
States in the hope of paying a final tribute to the King of Rock. Switchboards at local radio stations have been jammed with people pleading for Presley records to be played. Many stations are playing them virtually non-stop.
Since then, doctors that prescribed the medication have been subject to investigations, and one who was his main physician in the last months of his life is alleged to have prescribed him around 25 tablets a day for the last 7 months, a cocktail of narcotics, psychedelics, painkillers and benzodiazepine. Some of the drugs found in his body on that fateful day have been withdrawn from the market altogether. Sadly, when paramedics arrived that day, they were unable to save Elvis, and he had been dead for a number of hours. To this day, I can remember the TV broadcasting his death, and I was very little at the time, but I remember my dad saying that the king had died. Sadly, in January 2023, his only child Lisa Marie joined him, also being laid to rest in Graceland. The legacy that Elvis has left behind continues to be enjoyed by millions of people all over the world today, and Graceland attracts millions of visitors each year and continues to ever expand in ways in which people can enjoy his music and touch the hearts of everyone, young and old. So this is our first air tag in America this time. And there it is, all done. Air tag 1 deployed at Graceland.